Good afternoon, and welcome to Resources for Prison Ministries. My name is Benny Muhammad. I will be your host today. Our panelists are from my right going to left. We have Mr. Rick, the real Freeway Ricky Ross. Seated next to him, we have Mr. Enoch Muhammad. He's the co-creator and servant facilitator of Hip Hop Detoxx. And on my far right, we have Brother Straw, who is the president of Freeway Records. How you doing, gentlemen?
Oh, we doing fine. And you?
Great. Our topic today is Truth Without Boundaries. And so we're going to move right into it. Again, I'm your host, Benny Muhammad. Mr. Muhammad.
Yes, sir.
Hip Hop Detoxx. That name is circulating. For our listening audience here in the Northwest Indiana area, can you give us a little bit about how your vision to create Hip Hop Detoxx came about? Some of the challenges that you experienced in giving birth to Hip Hop Detoxx.
Well, the Hip Hop Detoxx came to birth starting off when I was about 19 years old, when I started reading books that was inspiring me to think about doing something for black people and really doing something for people, period, who needed knowledge. And so the more I read, the more I began to want to take hip-hop as an art form to a higher level. So I was, always listening to different types of hip-hop. I wasn't listening to just the so-called positive. I grew up on NWA. I love Too Short. I love Ice-T. I love KRS-One, Public Enemy. So I love different types of hip-hop music. But growing up, I didn't know anything about Malcolm X. I knew very little about Dr. King. So as I began to get more conscious, I began wanting to put more of a positive message into the music. And so basically, as I began to become more active in the community, began to do more in my city, then what I began doing is trying to find ways of going into schools and going different places where I could give a positive message to young people. So that began my journey. But Hip Hop Detoxx didn't really, I think, take root until after 2005. When I participated in something called the Millions More Movement, and I heard Minister Farrakhan say that we need to have people come together to do something as a community, because we can't keep blaming people for what happened 400 years ago. As a people, we need to begin to take charge and take responsibility of our communities. So after I went to the Millions More Movement and was part of the whole tour, I said, well, look, I think, working with the youth and young people, that's what I have been doing. I'm going to continue to do that. And so we had different names that we use, but it boiled down to what we really do. And what we do is we use truth without any boundaries. That means we don't do religious gang banging. That means we don't do organizational gang banging and all the territorial things that we do to divide ourselves. What we do is we bring truth, and we use it in a way to detox, to remove the poison that cause a lot of the dysfunctions that people talk about. But we want to get to the root of it, find the origin, source, and cause of it, so then we can begin helping people to get into a process of freeing themselves. So basically, after doing that and having a network of artists and people that I work with, over the years, we just began traveling around the country, traveling around the city of Chicago, just doing what we do. So pretty much Hip Hop Detoxx is a vision that I think that I've just been blessed to be part of, because other people had to interact with me in order for the Hip Hop Detoxx to even come into existence. So I give credit to Verbal Balance and Random, which are poetry and hip hop and creative movements in Chicago that, a lot of artists, got together with those collectives and we worked together. So I give honor to that. I give honor to D.A. Smart, who was the first rapper I ever met that made me want to just, just work with him because I saw how cold he was, and I saw he had a message that was positive, that was conscious. And I give credit to any of the artists that people know that took their art form and used it to uplift people, But like I said, I didn't just listen to positive, I listened to the not so positive. So, Ice Cube, when we were with NWA, I loved Ice Cube. A lot of my raps sounded like Ice Cube. But when he made his transition, it was inspiring in a sense of transitioning himself from doing what he did with NWA and becoming more of a thinker and doing reality raps. So I think all those elements combined is a fusion that produced what we call hip-hop detox.
Yes, sir. Now, my understanding is that hip-hop detox has been very active in the Chicago public school systems as well as the juvenile courts.
Yes, sir.
I did a little research on you, okay?
Yes, sir.
And when I went to YouTube, what I observed was that there are some video links where you were interviewed by and highlighted and edified by Fox News as well as WGN News.
Yes, sir.
Most recently, I believe it was on September the 9th when the Hip Hop Detox, you being at the head of that, were featured on CNN News, CNN.com.
Yes, sir.
Would you care to speak briefly into those edifications?
Well,
and the work that you're doing in the Chicago public schools?
Well, I take it as those media outlets, they just took a peek of what we do every day. And what we do every day is that we know that those who work with the Hip Hop Detox, we have a mission. And our mission is to uplift our people and humanity, because hip hop is worldwide. Hip hop is international. So you got people, whether they're in Bangladesh, whether they're in South Africa, no matter where they are, people, especially young people, are listening to hip hop music. And it's of various generations that listen to hip hop music. So, what they did was really, it was a blessing to have them come in to be able to see the programmatic work that we do, because we do work where we actually take the time to work with young people and their issues and not only listen to them, but then give them something to experiment with. And then they come back and let us know how it was. It's like we give them a hit or something, yes, and tell them come back and let us know if this worked for you or if this experiment, what did it produce for you? And the experiment is always dealing with how can you be humble enough to ask yourself, what is my contribution to the problems in my life? Because that's what you got control over. And if you're able to ask that question and answer it honestly, then you'll be able to say, okay, if this is my contribution, I can take my contribution off the table. And after I do that, whoever else got a contribution, I can deal with that, forthrightly. But I'm going to take mine off the table so that I won't be, the stumbling block. So, we're thankful for them to come in and check out what we do, because really, we're just beginning.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Now, my next question is, gentleman seated to my right here and your left, the real Freeway Ricky Ross, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
How did you come to briefly, how did you come to make this acquaintance with Mr. Ross?
Are you asking me that?
Yes, I'm asking you.
Briefly, the Final Call newspaper had an article that I read of Rick Ross, and what he said inspired me to act on something that I already thought about years ago, which was in 1996, 97, when this whole thing was blowing up all over with Gary Webb and the whole, crack cocaine piece. It made me to act on what needed to be done, which was for me to get in contact with this brother. And so once I made the phone calls and communicated with his brother, yes, and then we kept it going, then we made it happen.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Ross, now that you're here in the Chicagoland area.
Man, this brother here is off the chain.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Absolutely.
I've been here, man, and we've been going. I like to go, but he's been stretching me out.
Can you tell our audience a little bit briefly about, I'm just reading the headline, right? Of course, this is past tense.